Bonjour mes amis, I'm Dustin. Thanks for joining me today. Today I want to talk about a couple of jobs that I've done to encourage you and sort of give you some tips. If you're a maker or a doer or a fixer, handyman, anybody who's trying to make a little money by doing things and fixing things and helping others at the same time, then hopefully I can encourage you and give you some tips today. So don't quit, keep on solving those problems for others because that's a big deal. All right, let's get into it. So to give you guys a little bit of history, I started as a dirt work company because my brother-in-law is an electrician and he needed me to do trenches, and he thought he could give me several of them in a year and that other people would need me to do the same thing, but it didn't work out so well. So we got this random call for this job, and the young lady said, hey, they cleaned out the ditches in our neighborhood, we got some dirt and we asked for some more. It's a big old pile, can you spread it? I was like, yeah. So it was very wet. Sim and I went out there. This is winter time, and it got rained on a couple times, and all we could really do using my friend's little dingo was basically knock about 10 inches off the top by hand and with the machine. So I need to explain a little bit. Okay, my thoughts were, it's winter, it's been raining a lot, the ground is wet. I need to rent a really small excavator and just sort of rake the pile towards me over and over all the way around it and get it flat. Maybe 3 hours, rent it for half a day, $200. All right, cool. So I gave a quote of about $450. But some of my mistakes were just not really working with dirt when it's wet. Didn't know how wet it was. I just used pictures that she sent me to make my quote decision, and that wasn't a good idea either. I could have gone there and seen how wet and sticky the dirt really was, and it just took forever. So doing dirt work in the winter, you need to plan that it's going to take multiple trips. You might have to wait even weeks until it starts to get drier. So those are some things that I didn't exactly do well. But you can see how dark it looks. It was just mud a few inches down below the top cap. And so we couldn't do much. So we tried a little bit, hoping that it might dry in the future after this. And I started realizing more and more that it was really low quality dirt. So we picked everything up and waited for a better day. Hey everybody, so I just want to pause real quick and say that dirt work is not easy. I'm learning that more and more the hard way. There's so much skill required and experience and the right equipment, and it can be very costly. You could be digging near utilities, so it could be dangerous and really inconvenient if you break something. So it's a big deal. So I ended up stopping excavation. I don't do excavation anymore. We only do light dirt work jobs, like spreading dirt or adding gravel to a road. And even that, anything with dirt can end up taking longer than you think. So if you're thinking about getting into dirt work specifically, make sure you have some past experience and that you know some people with more experience than you do so that you can go to them for advice when you need it. So following my friend's advice, the boys went with me to knock off the top cap again 2 weeks later, and that allowed it to dry a little bit more. It was still pretty wet under there. I think we took off maybe 14 to 18 inches. It wasn't terrible because it wasn't real hot, but it was still a lot of work. The dirt was heavy, and it's still just sticky and clumpy and low quality dirt, as you can see hopefully in the video. We used buckets to spread the dirt out a little bit. It was pretty heavy, so scooping and throwing was kind of a chore. And here we are about 10 days later. So it's obvious that it's much lower than it was. And it was pretty windy, and that helped to dry it out a little bit. At this point, it's starting to look more like real dirt and not so much mud and clay. but it's still very clumpy, and it's still, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 inches high in the middle. This time I was able to actually make some progress with the dingo. It wasn't slipping nearly as much, almost not at all really. It was only wet when I got down to the center inner part of the pile. I haven't used this thing much at all or anything like it. So it took me some time to get used to the controls, and you're standing on it. You're not sitting in it like an excavator or a tractor. But man, it's a really neat machine. This is probably a bigger job than what it's made to do, but it was still very useful. I didn't have to rent anything. My friend was gracious enough to let us borrow it twice, and he let me use the bucket and a spreader grid, and it did a good job. And so the grid can be placed with the outer edge down or up, so you can back drag, you can push forward, you can sweep left to right, since the dingo operates like a zero-turn mower. And it was really useful. It didn't do so well in the sticky dirt, but like I said, only the center was really wet, and you can see here how it's still kind of wet, and I still had big ruts. But this thing was really great to use. I thought it came out pretty nicely, but the homeowner was not so happy when she got home and saw that it was still pretty lumpy. And she said her boyfriend asked if there was a way I could go pick up the big clumps on the edges, because they thought I was going to pack it down better. I think when she said pack it down, she really meant feather it and spread it better. But this dirt was terrible. It must have been some fill dirt that the people brought her extra, because she asked for extra. The dirt on the front edge near the ditch was light colored, and it worked way better. So she wasn't super happy, so I did go back and pick up some clumps with a bucket and break some up and spread it a little bit better. I mean, it was all I could do. I think I charged around $4.50, really no expenses except paying the boys and fuel. So overall, it wasn't too bad. I wish I could have made her a little happier, but part of it was communicating poorly on my behalf, on my part and on hers. And part of it was not understanding dirt as well as I should. So I still made some money. I still got it spread, but it wasn't a 100% satisfaction job. Now, moving on to better things. A buddy of mine asked if we could bring some soil to fill in some low spots in their backyard. Typical neighborhood. The neighbor's dog scratches under the fence a lot, so he wanted us to add some rocks to the soil right there to maybe deter the digging. So I like to take pictures with my phone and then add markups to remind me what's needed. So that was where he said we needed dirt. There used to be a tree or two, and his dog used to dig. So Sim and I used some free compost, and then we bought half a cubic yard of sand, put it in the little trailer in my truck, and we brought it over there, and it worked out really well. We were able to put it in all the spots and pack it down, and I think he was really happy. And we didn't have to charge a whole lot, but we still made decent money for maybe an hour and a half of work total. And we dug up an old basketball goal post while we were there. Well, that second job went the way a job is supposed to go. It wasn't too hot. We had enough money to buy the sand. We had rakes and shovels. I had a helper, Simeon, and the trailer and the truck worked out well. And it wasn't a lot of labor. It was just several pits in the backyard. It was certainly doable, and it was just good, and we made decent money on it. So I wish we had more jobs that way. And if you can find someone sort of in a neighborhood who doesn't really know how to do anything around their house themselves, you could be their go-to person if you show yourself skillful and friendly in the first job or two. And they may continue to get you to do all the little things that keep up their yard and their house. That's a great customer to have. So I hope sharing this with you all was helpful and informative and encouraging. Keep going out there and fixing things and improving things for people. We'll see y'all in the next one.